Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. If you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the newly released book, The Post-COVID Marketing Machine: Prepare Your Team to Win. And you can find out more information on this at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. So I guess the question for marketing is there a killer app for generative AI for marketers? Is it just a fancy chatbot, or is there a lot more to it? Today we're interviewing Faruk Heplevent, and he is the CEO of the Scope Studio. Hopefully we'll be discovering how to position our businesses to win in this new landscape of marketing technology, AI, and the future. So stay tuned. And whether you're a small or large business, getting AI to work in the digital space can be definitely a major differentiator in the market. So let me tell you a little bit about Faruk. He is a leader in automotive marketing, and he began his career in 1990, assisting photographers and quickly moving to creating visuals for major car brands. In 2007, he founded The Scope, pioneering CGI photography and launching Scope City with clients such as Audi, BMW, and Tesla, and even awards such as Cannes Lions and others. So Faruk is renowned for his innovative work, and he lives in Hamburg with his family, so Hamburg, Germany. And I wish I were there. I haven't been back to Hamburg in quite a while. So anyway, welcome, Faruk. So good to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your backstory on how you got involved in marketing and AI and CGI.
Well, my backstory is, like you said, I started in photography and, entered, started working with people that were working for car brands back then, learned that craft and, started shooting myself with a partner, developed that. And after a while, after the second child, I have four kids. My wife said, "Okay, you're traveling too much. It's difficult because it's honestly a car photographer's life it it is still quite glamorous because you follow the sun, right? It's like you in winter you go to Cape Town, you go to California, in summer you go to southern Spain, Italy. So you're in beautiful places, have beautiful cars in front of you, and do that. But it means at the same time you need to travel and deal with the realities of a production. And part of that market was photographing cars for launches, so when they introduced for the very first time. The risk there is that car paparazzis, who do exist, right? So they try to take pictures of the car. The OEM, the manufacturer is trying to avoid it because they want to control what the car looks like, when the audience sees it the first time. And interestingly, in the development of Scope, we came back to that, and we're pretty focused on launches. So this is what the main 80% of our work is launch projects, because in that setup, CGI lends itself to the production because, first of all, it's secret, so it's easy to keep secret. Usually they do not have a car that is ready to be photographed, or if they have it, it's a pretty expensive endeavor to get a car ready for a photo shoot or film shoot. They need to build it by hand because the production lines are not up yet, right? Because they introduce it and then they start building it 6-8 months later. So, manufacturers trying to save that money. Then obviously you have situations where designers change things last minute. And if you have hand built it, it's too late. Going from red leather seats to white leather seats, for example, an extreme sample. So with CGI digital workflows, we can react to these things quickly. If they say, "Oh, we changed the color, we changed this," and we can provide a very stable and safe production environment because the sun Yeah, a classic car photo will be taken what we call the magic hour, just after the sunset, right? So yeah, very, very
Yep.
soft skylights, beautiful. Even in summer in Iceland, that take, you have an hour in the summer in Iceland in this specific light situation. Anywhere else, it's like you have 15, 20 minutes, so it's not a lot of time. And waiting for that the whole day. This was the way car photography was produced before CGI. We can set the sun in the computer as we like, and it just stays until we say, okay, we're good. We're done. So the control that the technology gives us liberates us creatively. That is one of the things that always interested me in the CGI, that the production control that technology is giving us allows me to be even more precise with the light. Think about it longer, and move rocks and bushes, and do all these things, control traffic in the city, pedestrian. When you look at a city shot, it's like, oh yeah, when it looks good, it looks lively, interesting. But in the end, you have to control every element of a picture. What is the parked car? How many people are crossing the street? Is a car driving away? All these things. Doing that in real life is a major production, extremely expensive. And with the technological development, also, what AI is offering, all these things become easier for us to do. And this is the main development that we're seeing, and this is what we're looking for. How can we, make the technology work for us so that the humans have more time for higher level tasks?
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like what you did is your wife wanted you to go from beautiful sunsets and beautiful landscapes over to dirty diapers.
Exactly. Yes, that's what happened.
So now I
I
know
went
exactly
along.
what your backstory is.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Sunset to
So
diaper. That's a good headline. Yeah.
so yeah, interesting. And now I went to your website and I was incredibly impressed with what you've done there. But tell us about your company, the Scope Studio, and then tell us about what you've got on your website. It's just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a moment to look at the website, I think one of the interesting things is to keep in mind that everything you see is completely computer generated. So there is not some computer generated, some real photography film, but everything is computer generated. Um, Ideally, if we're successful and if we do a good job as a team, you will see these assets and say, well, yeah, this is real. This is what we're trying to do. Um, that is an interesting marketing problem for us, because if we do a real good job, people are like, yeah, this looks real. I mean, they're like, where is the beef, right? What is the great thing? And you're like, no, everything is CG. You need to explain everything. If we do a good job, right? So bad CG you usually see. So that's something that's a bit tricky, but this is what we strive to do. We try to create films and photos where you do not see the technology. We want the assets to work for our clients, to do what they were, meant to do. In the launch situation, it's usually we like to say it's a first portrait of the car that the world gets to see. And even with the faster development cycles, the manufacturers need 3.5 to 4 years to, from designing a car to putting it on the street. And during those 4 years, fantastically talented, smart people spend their life creating that vehicle. So obviously, it's very, very important for them when it gets launched and how it's, presented in picture film. When it goes downstream in the product life cycle, so to speak, it is not unimportant, but other things become more important. But the very first thing, it's all about the design. It's all about the positioning. It's all about the car. And yes, car advertising, the car is always the hero. That's a standard saying in car advertising, but within a launch, it's even more so, right? Later on, you'll see,
Mm,
you add the families, on the website, or, the demographic you want to communicate. So you will connect those to the car shots. But in the beginning, the first view is car, car, car. And obviously needs to be, executed on a very high level, short timelines. And we do deal with, high level management, because if it's a new car, usually one of the top level managers will introduce it somewhere, meaning they're going to stand in front of the picture or the film. It's not like, yeah, it's running on, it's running. It's a TV ad. It's like, they're like, I'm here, the picture is there. So I want to know what it looks like. So
right.
they get very involved. Um, so it's a bit of a high pressure uh stress situation.
Yeah.
But like with everything, if this is what you're doing, it's not so stressful for us. Usually it's most stressful for the clients, because this is what we're doing, right? So it's we're used to it. We're used to that stress.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like your point. I mean, early on, in terms of all of the variables that you have now control over,
Yeah.
whether there's people walking or where the car is parked or whether the rock needs to be moved or whatever. That makes so much sense. And being able to do that in an environment where you have the right sun at the right time for 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week, and
Yeah.
you can just play and
Yeah.
make changes and what have you. I could imagine, though, that leads to the desire by the client to have even more changes and more options and more
That's
things.
that's that's very interesting, and this is something that we were kind of afraid of as well. We tried to manage that, but what we learned is, you know, if you offer things that the clients can judge, so that they're in color, in crop. So, if I would share it with you and say, "Guy, which picture do you like?" And you're like, "Okay, I like B." And I say, "Okay, B it is. You can have it." Um, Regular production is like, "Oh, look, here's a location picture. This is the car. We're going to do this. Imagine that. These are references." So everybody kind of creates a picture in their mind, in their own mind. And only at the very end, when, you say, "Okay, this is the shot," they're like, "Oh, this is not what I was expecting." Because, who knows what they were expecting?
Mm,
It's in their mind. But being able to really have a picture and be in the situation where this is, what we, I mean, not we, many people call it that, but it's like what you see is what you get. And being able to deliver that, especially for, decision makers that do not make those decisions on a daily basis, right? Like I said, the C level for launch, they're involved in that. But the next week, they think about the factory or whatever they're
mm,
doing. I don't know, but it's not their daily business to decide on photography or film. So the only way they can make make an educated decision is if they see it.
yeah.
Right? They need to see the almost finished product. And then, and this is also something where we're like, okay, this is actually pretty good, because we show stuff very early, and it helps us to find out, I'm sorry, if somebody dislikes things. Interestingly, for example, I met people that deeply, personally hate Brickstone. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know where it comes from, right? Is it Hamburg? Is a lot of Brickstone, so they're not from Hamburg. But I mean, people have certain reactions to things that they cannot tell you beforehand. Nobody will come into a meeting and say, "Okay, do whatever you like, just make sure no Brickstone," right? That doesn't happen. So essentially, showing things that people can react to helps us to, produce something that they're happy with, and we produce something that is product correct and, have all the other things under control. And like you said, so we can send something and then wait for 2 days. The sun is still where it was. It's not running away. And that's a huge advantage for creative production. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. So do you think you have condensed the amount of time between, I don't know, I guess the
Yeah.
final version of what the car is going to look like to when you're actually going to have film and photography, or is that still about the same? It's just now different.
No, we did condense it because if you imagine somebody has to build the car by hand and then ship it somewhere, that alone, I mean, a 6-month process,
Mm.
right? And what we actually do is we have that sometimes, our usual production time is like 10 to 12 weeks, depending on how crazy that client is. Can
Hmm.
be. Um, but what happens if it's a launch? There's a possibility that during production they say, we decided we want to show different wheels on this car. But then they just need to send us the data, we switch out the data, and then it shows up with the new wheels in the same light.
Right,
It's
right.
if you have to photograph it, Photoshop it, it's all possible. We have done that. But that is, so that is the amazing thing that these logistic issues do not reduce the quality of creative output we can create.
Mm.
This is what I like about it.
Well, and I guess instead of then having these crazy deadlines where then you, as the creatives, then have to work 24 hours a day
Yeah,
for 3 or 4 days after the tire and the wheel gets changed, you can
yeah,
more or less, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but more or less just plug in the new wheels and then you're ready to go. So
yeah.
how has AI, how do you see AI coming in as part of that?
Well, we started using AI under the hood, I would say. We started as early as 2019. One of the software packages that we're using is called Houdini, which also helped us to create the city. And when you look at the city, as far as the amount of geometry, of modeling, of textures that are included in that to make it photorealistic, you need a lot, but you still need to be efficient. And there is workflows, algorithms that using AI create optimized textures or do certain things to the geometry for us. There's this thing called UV mapping, where you tell the computer this is a piece of geometry and this is how it's laid out, so you can put a texture on it. It's something that every CG artist hates to do. It's just tedious work. So the machine does that, but to be able to do that, they need, trained models, AI models. So these are like small, very small AI bots. Then there is something that is super helpful for us is something they call denoising. So when you render an image in final resolution, it might take 2-3 hours per frame for 4K. But the denoisers are trained on render outputs and real images, so they can, with AI, say, oh, this is, a wall. I know what the wall is, so I don't need to go look at every bucket and render it one by one. They're like, okay, I can calculate that, which speeds up
Mm.
general render time for us, output time, which saves energy, right? These things. Those are the main tools that we're using right now. But as I said, NVIDIA's Omniverse is something that we're looking into very closely. We're in conversation with NVIDIA because they are interested in getting Scope City published in the Omniverse. So this is something, we need to do technical stuff to be able to do that. But that is very interesting, fascinating, because then it can, somebody else can connect an AI tool they have to run simulations in the city to train cars, for example.
Mm.
So you can combine these things. As far as marketing is concerned, I think, you know, AI and configurators are going to be a big thing for the manufacturers. So hyper-personalized assets. So, the AI will understand you with Google information and show you the right car in the right environment. And it is as simple as, most American advertising is filmed in California because that's where the industry is. But then your local dealers, which are, big companies, I'm sure also in Atlanta, you have a big
Hmm.
local, let's say,
Hmm.
Ford dealer that does localized advertising because they say, well, everything looks like California. I'm in Atlanta. This is, I don't want to, it's my audience doesn't want to see that. And in the not too distant future, I think we will be able to say, put together a location that is more Atlanta, put together a location that's more Wisconsin, but keep the drive. So you will be able
Mm.
to multiply it, localize it, and hyper personalize it in the end.
Yeah.
And this is for cars. I truly believe this will be very important for everybody that is selling products.
Yeah. Well, there's no question that personalization is one of the opportunities for AI because you can make you can have it make 1,000 different variants on the content or 100,000. It's just a
Yeah,
question of, like you said, energy and time. And then of course having the data to drive it. But I hadn't thought about that a local dealership in Atlanta would want to have an Atlanta focused centric ad that otherwise, nationally might be out of California, but I'd want a local one in Atlanta and a local one in Wisconsin or wherever it happens to be.
yeah,
And being able to do that relatively quickly,
yeah.
that is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think right now there's a lot of money being spent on, local advertising. But for the main manufacturers, it is more difficult to, you know, be consistent as a brand,
Mm.
right? Because it's, I don't know what your, Atlanta Ford dealer is, but these people decide to do that. The guys in Florida decide to throw in some alligators and cowboy hats, and I mean, I've seen very, very cool, funny stuff that
Yeah.
they do, and I'm sure it sells cars. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. I'm sure, and I think it's they should be allowed to do that. But again, as a brand, you try to
Mm.
establish a certain brand feeling, control it, help your dealers, obviously, to
Yeah.
sell cars.
Well, and that's also interesting is maintaining control of your
Yeah,
brand while the retailers, the dealers are wanting to go off and do something because they haven't been getting that support. And now,
yeah,
technically, at a reasonable cost, the brands can offer that personalization, or in this case, regionalization,
yeah,
at a reasonable cost, probably less than what they're otherwise paying, and be able
probably.
to maintain control of the and consistency of how the brand is presented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where it's going. It's not there yet. There's also other companies, there's partner companies that we're talking. So but this is happening. It's the thought of it is 8 years old. But
Hmm.
AI now helps to, speed it up or reduce the cost to such an extent that it becomes viable.
Mm. Well, and when you're a brand and you have and you're spending, the automotive brands are spending so much money on advertising and then I would imagine there's a cost savings. Whether it's a cost savings in the creative or not is maybe secondary. There's a cost
Yeah,
savings in everything else downstream that comes with that.
yeah,
And then in addition, now to be able to take it to the next step to provide that cost savings to potentially to the retailers, the dealers, and then deliver that in a very consistent and speedy and whatever
yeah,
way to
yeah,
make sure that the emotions are getting across on the
yeah,
brand, the and everything else that's going on. That is that right there is potentially a killer app for 2 or 3 years from now
yeah,
for AI to be able to
yeah.
really provide that brand the full control over the creative in just about every aspect that it might actually manifest itself.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, essentially, I don't see an AI that does generative AI like Midjourney to supply that, because even if it's a very, very good AI, you still have a lot of creative decisions to make. And it does render, so you need to compute it somehow.
Mm,
And the way we see it right now, you're probably faster and more efficient when you use good old CGI, right?
mm.
It's like, because you have everything under control. It's, it's precise compared to generative AI. It might hallucinate some crocodiles in Wisconsin, for example. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so funny when you use the term hallucination with AI.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right. You don't know what's going to come out of it.
Yeah. So you might
Yeah.
need more time basically auditing the AI in
Yep.
such a huge volume than having a very controlled output center and using AI, to deliver it faster or more precisely or based on information that you get from the web or from
Yeah.
dealers.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is absolutely fascinating. So, uh, anything else you want to speak about, or anything else that we haven't talked about yet?
As far, yeah, well, this is mainly what, AI, and, I would encourage your audience maybe to, look at what they're doing in combination with CGI, right? There might be a point because, let's say you're just creating shampoo bottles, yeah, that might be a more simple thing to solve just with generative AI. Um, but combining generative AI with CGI is something that will give give the marketing people a lot of power,
Mm,
because I'm just assuming you might want to do the same thing when you're selling hair care product. I don't know. That's not my market, but socks,
hmm.
fast moving consumer goods. I don't know, right? So these things you might have to be fast, even faster and even more personalized than what you do with cars.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the stability that CGI offers combined with the AI that is available today, and it's getting better and better and better. And if somebody's interested, my bet right now is Omniverse for that.
Hmm. Okay. Well, then that's definitely interesting. I'll have to look into that and understand a little bit more about that.
Mhm.
So, before we close, one question I like to ask is what is some advice that you would give to an up and coming marketer? Maybe somebody right out of college or whatever. What advice would you give that person?
Well, my main advice also, talking to the younger team members is all the technology is great, but I try to evaluate technology based on human needs. Of course, there's economic needs, but it's still, not to fall into the shiny new object trap, essentially, because it is there. And AI is going to, some people are already de-hyping it again, right? It's like there was a shortage. I mean, some analysts are like, oh, I think it's over. I'm like, okay, let's just start it. How can it be
Yeah.
over? But it's going to, like the internet did, right? I was there in 99 and didn't do anything with it. Um, but then, you had to crash. So it's going to happen. What will not change is, how humans interact with each other. And what advertising does is a conversation just with different means,
Mm,
because you react to it as a human. And I think this is something that I encourage actually technical people more than non-technical people to really go out and read behavioral science books. And there is like I think one of the good ones is Fast Thinking, Slow Thinking by
Yeah,
Mr.
Kahneman, Daniel
Kahneman.
Kahneman.
Thank you.
Yep, yep,
Fantastic base. I mean, when you start with that, it takes you to other places if you're interested, but that is already so eye-opening if you've never encountered that. And this is happening with us all the time, all the time, all the time. And we want to use technology to influence people in a good way. This is advertising,
yeah,
seduce them
yep.
in a good way, right?
Well, I like your point about understanding consumer behavior, because in the end, if regardless of what an advertiser or a brand is
Yeah.
trying to do, is if they can better understand the consumer decision making process and how to influence that decision process, and then use technology as kind of the one of the tools. It's kind
Yeah.
of like a hammer. I'm just going to use
Yeah.
technology, whether it's CGI or whether it's AI or something else. It's just a tool to better, make that influence more in your behavior, and hopefully, like
Absolutely.
you said, for the good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you're so right. Understanding, how consumer behavior plays into all decision making is absolutely critical.
Yeah, because consumers, you're a consumer. I am.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody's mom and dad is. It's like we are the target at the same time. So
yep,
right?
exactly.
What would I want? But I think this tends to get lost with all the technology. People are like, yeah, technology, no, it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
still
yeah.
humans.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Farooq. Thank you
Thank you very
so
much.
much. Really appreciate it, and definitely look forward to hearing more about you and some of the cool things that might be coming up over the next
Thank
couple of
you.
years. In any case, where can people reach you or learn more about your company?
Please go to thescope.studio. That's our URL. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can find us on LinkedIn and on Instagram. Not Twitter Xing, was it X, Twitter, whatever. Not the other things. Those are the things. It can't do more than that.
Yeah,
But you can
yeah,
find us there.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Focus in on the right socials. Yeah, thank you. So the scope.studio
Yeah.
is the URL.
Yeah.
I've been out there the last couple days. It is incredible. If you get a chance, definitely take a look at what Farooq and his company have put out there and what they can do. It is absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
So, Farooq, thank you again so much. And for the
Thanks for
audience,
having me.
please stay tuned for many other videos in this series on the backstory of marketing and AI. And otherwise, please visit marketingmachine.prorelevant.com, and you can download some excerpts of my most recent book, The Post-COVID Marketing Machine. And otherwise, if you get a chance, please rate this video as 5 stars, and I certainly will. Farooq, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.